You're listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn, where you'll find uplifting and practical advice for everyday living, creative inspiration for do-it-yourself projects, and recommendations for books and resources that will encourage you to embrace your life repurposed. I'm your host, Michelle Rayburn.
Hello and welcome to the show, the Phil and Michelle Show. So happy to have you today. Now, again, we are not registered therapists, but be happy to help in any way we can. Call in questions. You know the email here. We'll try to get through the emails as quick as we can and answer those tough to answer questions because that's what Michelle does best. Okay. We'll turn it over to you now, Michelle, for the questions. Thank you for your time. I'll get the coffee.
I'll get the M&Ms. Welcome to episode number 49 of Life Repurposed. I have a special treat for you today. I have in the studio my husband, Phil Rayburn, who has never been on my show before. And we're going to be talking about our new book that is coming out very soon. It's called Classic Marriage, Staying in Love as Your Odometer Climbs. And in this book, I wrote chapters about our 30 years of marriage, including some humorous observations and some practical tips. And then Phil gave commentary throughout the book in speech balloons. And so I'm going to invite Phil to say hello to all of my listeners.
Hello, it's great to be here. And yeah, you said a special treat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I'm glad to be part of the book, and hopefully, some of the guys out there will be able to just read some of those short balloons and get a laugh.
Yeah, because Phil's all about the laugh, really.
Some days.
Like, yes. Your day is made if you can get a laugh out of someone, right?
That's what I like to do.
And people have to listen really carefully because Phil says a lot of things under his breath. And so he might say something funny and you totally miss it.
I may have to explain myself sometimes.
Sometimes, yes.
And yes, I do that on occasion.
Yes. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about chapter 1 of our book because you might as well start at the first chapter, right?
Chapter 1's always a good one to start at.
It's a good place to start when you're reading a book.
Some people go right to the end. And,
yeah.
But
okay, so we're going to be talking about chapter 1, and this is our story of how we met and how we started dating. So we met in the best place to meet somebody.
We met at church.
Yes,
we did meet at church, and I remember very distinctly to this day looking across the auditorium and going, hey, new people. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, my mom made sure that I was able to show you to our Sunday school room.
Right.
Yes. And I was happy to do so.
And then it was love at first sight, right?
Well, no, actually, I thought you were much younger than you were at first. So, but then I realized that you weren't actually as young as maybe as I thought.
Yeah, I was not 12.
Right.
Yeah, I was 15. I was old. I was 15.
15, yes, very old. And,
yeah, so then it was the following summer when you asked me out for the first time.
I did. I asked you to...
What is today? Today's July 5 when we're recording this. It was July 6, I think, when you asked me out.
Okay.
Yeah, because on the 4th of July... we played softball with the church.
That's right. And I was making sure I shared my glove.
I shared your baseball glove because we're on opposite teams.
So I was happy to
And
do
you
that.
sent some of your friends over to ask if I liked you.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I remember that.
clearing the way to make sure that if you did ask me out, that I at least liked you, right?
That is correct. I could only handle so much disappointment in one day.
Yeah.
So, but yes, the news came back that, you thought I was a nice guy.
Yeah. So then it was a couple days after the 4th of July when you called my house and wanted to ask me to go somewhere with you.
Yeah. My friend's company was having a company picnic, and I was going to see if you could join us. Out at the lake, and do some other activities out there. And I called, and you were at work, and so I.
So you did the most logical thing any boy could do.
I invited your brother.
Yeah, he asked my brother on our first date, just for the record.
Yeah, out of sheer nervousness of talking to your mom, of course.
Yeah, panic.
Not that.
Hello.
And I, hey, your brother was a friend too. So, but in the meantime, your mom was just so nice to say, well, you know what, when Michelle gets off work.
Yeah, she saw through the whole thing and knew you didn't intend to ask my brother out, right?
Yeah, I would say she probably knew that, yes.
I didn't have my license yet, so she offered to drive me out to the lake after work.
That was, very nice of your mother to do that, and very...
She must have thought you were a nice boy. My parents have always thought you were a nice boy.
You can...
They probably like you more than they like me.
No, that's not at all true. Not at all true. No.
I'm just kidding. I mean, my parents love me,
yes. But
I think you can do no wrong.
Plus with good parents. But yeah, that was that. Then we went to Dairy Queen afterwards, and I remember being a little bit short on change, but just enough to buy an ice cream cone for you.
A little bit nervous.
Very nervous. Yeah, maybe had to buy another shirt because of...
Are you almost as nervous right now about being on the podcast?
Do
you have to go change your shirt?
Maybe more. Being on podcasts, being on camera, not my thing. But no,
we're not even on camera now. That video stuff is all done.
Out of love for my wife, I am here.
And out of love for our readers.
And a love for our readers. Mm-hmm. If this could... bring any encouragement or help at all. Right. It's all worth it. But
yeah. So Nervous Boy asked me out, and our first official date then was really to
a classic auto show,
a classic car show of all things.
Where else?
For us, 30 years later, to be still into classic cars.
Yep. I don't know where else you would go on a first date, but to a classic auto show.
To a classic car show. And, so that was like in, 1985?
Probably 1985,
So 35 years ago, we went on our first date right after the 4th of July. So we're right in that same window of time right now, 35 years ago. So he asked me out after he took my brother. And then the rest was all ended happily ever after, right?
Oh yeah, we never had a fight.
Yeah,
never had a disagreement. We never had a disagreement how to raise our kids.
All sunshines and rainbows.
Yeah, supper on the table every night, and it's been mm-hmm. great. It's been like. And if you can't tell, that's a bit of sarcasm.
Yeah, it's hard to tell your sarcasm.
Sorry,
sometimes.
Definitely not the case.
Yeah.
I remember sitting next to your grandfather at maybe your parents' 40th wedding anniversary and going, man, sometimes marriage is hard. Sometimes things just don't go like you anticipate. And I didn't get maybe the advice I thought he was going to say. He just said, I've never, he said, I don't think we've ever argued at all in our whole life. And I was like, wow, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, so we should say there that fighting is not the sign of bad marriage, because some couples don't argue, but it's what we do with our fights. So sometimes ours have been a little bit toxic, but then sometimes they're not. I'm probably more the toxic one. Although you're more the let's not talk about it. So
right. I'd rather not have the confrontation.
Yeah.
But it's very important that we do too.
Right.
Because otherwise we just don't work through it.
Yeah. So we've learned over the years that part of having a good marriage is being able to talk through the things, to not just run away or walk away when things get hard. And we aren't going to go into the whole story here, because this podcast episode would be way longer than we intended. I mean, I told you that we would try to get 10 minutes, and we've been talking 10 minutes already. Aren't you amazed?
Wow.
That's pretty good, yeah. So I'm not going to give the whole first chapter, but we go into one of our biggest fights in that. And one of the ones that we didn't even really resolve until a lot of years later. So for the listeners out there, this is important to know that one of our goals with writing this book is that we want you to still resolve some things that you've maybe tried to ignore and thought it's over with, but they actually might be things that have hurt your communication. So I'll give you a little hint. It's based on a gift that Phil gave me for a birthday that I didn't receive very well.
Not too well.
No. Okay, and you're going to have to read the book to find out what that is, because I'm not going to give it away. But in the book, we talk about how he reacted, how I reacted, and then how it was probably, 15 years or longer before we actually had a conversation where we could rationally talk about how we both felt about it.
Right. Yeah, it's best if you don't wait that long.
Yeah, right.
15 years is a bit of time.
Yeah, but the important message is it's never too late.
That is correct.
If you have something that's standing between you and you haven't worked through it, you still can.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so as we... Why are you looking at me like that? Oh, they can't see us. He's making faces at me. All right, so we know that gift giving is not Phil's love language, and you'll find out about that in the book. And then we talk about going back and talking about some of those things. So in the back of every chapter, in the end of every chapter, there's something called tune-up time. Why do we call it tune-up time?
I'm a car guy, so, cars need to be tuned. They need to be, there's always something that needs to be fixed or done, especially with classic cars. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the same goes with our marriage.
So even though there's some rust on it and stuff, it still runs. It's not perfect, but...
Right.
So in the tune-up time, we give some questions where couples can take out the list on a date night or in stay-at-home, because that's cheaper. Stay-at-home date nights are great. So if you go through some of the questions, you can pick and choose. And even if you don't both read the chapter, maybe a lot of wives like to read the whole book and guys like to skim. They could maybe just read Phil's comments in the balloons throughout the book. But then on the tune-up time, we encourage you to sit down and have a conversation. Talk about your first date. Talk about some of the bigger conflicts in your marriage and how they ended. And we are going to encourage you to take a pause and actually look back and see if there are any that you haven't resolved. We've resolved all of ours now, right?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah,
Good answer. No, probably not. No. There's probably more we can discover. So around our 25th anniversary, we participated, maybe it wasn't quite that long ago, but we participated in a group at church where we had supper, watched some videos, and then had some discussions. So that and some of the other things that we did, like video series and stuff over the years, have helped us to progress in our marriage. But I think it's important to say that none of those was the one fix.
No.
It's always working on it. So if you go through a video series or you go to, we went to marriage retreats, like we'd been married 10 years, 15 years. We've gone to those. You come home with some ideas and you think, I'm going to do the things I need to do to make this a good marriage. And then everyday life comes, right?
Correct. Yes. It would be nice if it was that easy.
Yeah.
But it's work.
So the idea in our book is that it's a constant work in progress, always tuning up. And so we want to go to that marriage retreat, read that book, do the thing, do these discussion questions, but then continue to do more and grow that marriage. So those are questions that are in the back. Some of them are ones that might produce some fun discussion, talking about fun things, and some of them might be a little bit heavier. But the idea is for your marriage to grow into one that would also go the distance. And that's why it's Staying in Love as Your Odometer Climbs. So as we wrap up, I want to ask Phil how he would define romance.
Oh, tough question.
I'm putting him on the spot. I didn't tell him ahead.
I think romance can be different for all people, but I think it depends upon what you find your spouse really likes. And,
that's true.
And I think then that would be whatever you like. I know we talked about the love languages and things like that, and I think if we can move forward with some of those love languages, and to me, I think that would be romance for your spouse, to see that you're trying to, do those things for your spouse.
Yeah, that's actually a good definition when you think about it. Doing the thing that your spouse appreciates the most. That's,
some spouses might find you doing the dishes is a great romantic thing.
Mm-hmm. That'd be, So this is based on Gary Chapman's 5 love languages. We briefly mentioned that in the book.
Briefly,
and,
yes.
So we talk about how different that can be. Like, some people appreciate acts of service. Some people love gifts. Actually, we've determined I don't need gifts. That's
nice.
Yeah. I need quality time.
Because, as you know, I'm not a good gift.
He's not a good gift. Yeah. Then now they want to read that story.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I agree that it is about knowing what your spouse appreciates the most, and that's how we stay in love, is to do something for somebody else. So love isn't about what I get as much as about what I give, and then the more we both give, the more, I guess, the happier we both are. So I always give a resource at the end of each episode. And so you can guess that the resource that I'm going to be mentioning today is our book, Classic Marriage, Staying in Love as the Odometer Climbs. I will have a link to that, which is potentially not live yet, but there will be a pre-order page. And you will find that at michellerayburn.com/49 for this episode. And you'll be able to get some of the free resources that I have for the book. And since this is before the launch, you will also be able to get some information there about the launch party and find out how you can be part of that, because I'm going to be giving away a lot of books, not only ours, but some other helpful marriage resources. So go to michellerayburn.com/49, and I hope that you will tune in next time, because Phil's going to be back.
What?
Yeah. Say goodbye.
Okay. Hey, it's been great. Thanks for having me, Michelle.
You've been listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn. Check out tips, resources, and inspiration at michellerayburn.com. I'd love it if you would subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or Spotify. I'd also love it if you would like, review, and share the information about this podcast with your friends. Thank you so much for listening.